I felt that no one would want to know me. I felt sick. I felt revulsion. The office contacted me to see if I still wanted to go ahead and meet my mother, which I did. I wanted to very much find out what had happened, why. Had she been assaulted? Was it consensual? I made a very big decision that changed the whole course of my life. Hi, I'm Theresa Wiler, and in my early 20s I discovered that my biological parents were brother and sister. When I was born in West London, my mum left very quickly and I was taken into the care of what was then called London County Council and moved to a children's home, not like they are today, a very big one which had its own school, nursery, hospital, everything. My children's worker decided she would try and place me for adoption. And at 2.5, she placed an advertisement in the Tablet, which is a Catholic weekly newspaper, asking for a home for a 2.5-year-old girl. She said of above average intelligence and very bright. My parents were looking at the time and answered the advertisement. And I started to visit with them in West London. And eventually, at the age of 2.5, I was adopted by them. They already had 2 boys who were 2 and 4 years older than me, that were their children. And they subsequently adopted another little girl behind me, making us a family of 4 growing up. So I had a very happy childhood, some might say privileged. My dad was a very senior civil servant. In fact, he was the man that orchestrated the Cenotaph Remembrance Service for 20 years. So I had a nice childhood growing up, played lots of sport, played lots of music, and went to a very nice school. As we all grew up, my brother's slightly older than me, they were beginning to settle down, get married, and children started to arrive, so grandchildren from my parents. And up until then, I hadn't really taken much notice of babies or of, the fact that nobody knew anything about me as a baby. But when the first child was born, my nephew, I felt this overwhelming urge that, yes, actually, I wanted to do exactly the same. I wanted to get married, settle down, and very much have children. So that got me thinking about my genetics and, what was my background, because basically I didn't really exist until I was 2.5.
Okay, guys, I have to hold on for a second. Hold on. So I don't know. I don't know how common this is, like, of a thing here. How many kids are being adopted from scenarios where this is like a thing that is kind of exists within their genome? This is not her fault. I definitely wonder, like, is there anything wrong? But obviously I'm not trying to dig too deeply because it's not my business if there's something, if that makes any sense, wrong, like genetically. But I would just suspect that, having kids that close, if that makes any sense, sounds absolutely scary based off of all the information I think that we have kind of been taught, or at least in the West, at least, right? So what would it look like for her to actually have children? So many questions. Let's continue.
The first photos, and that's
hopefully she answers them.
So without telling anybody, because I didn't want to upset my parents or appear to look as though there was anything wrong with my upbringing, I contacted the local social services to find out how I went about finding out more. They discovered that my records were held in Islington in North London,
right? And
they arranged for me to go along and view them. So again, in secret, I didn't tell anybody for fear of upsetting people. I went to the Islington office in North London, and the receptionist showed me to a little room and said they would bring in my records. I wasn't allowed to photocopy anything or take anything away, but I could write notes if I wanted to. Shortly afterwards, she brought me a file and she just plopped it on the table and left me to it. I opened it up, and the first thing I saw that my mum was unmarried and 16 and had been unable to care for me alone. And that was why she had left me and put me in the care of social services.
I'm gonna be completely honest here. That story doesn't sound 100% true here. I think that's just like the family line. Let's just say this here. I think that they most likely tried to separate themselves as far away from this as humanly possible. And the kid that was basically born out of the sister and the brother basically had to be removed from the family because it was too hard to explain. I'm not sure it's the care thing. Don't get me wrong here. I think that probably is what you would love to hear. But like truthfully, it feels a little bit more like, if my son and daughter decided to go have a kid, I don't know if we can keep the kid in the family, if that makes any sense here. Not that close, because I don't know. I think for the sole purpose of like the overall shame of the act kind of in the first place here. But you did bring a kid into this world here. You know, and you should probably take care of your children, your child. It's yours, right? But I don't know if it's like how her story is basically being read, at least.
And as I carried on reading down, I saw the details of the father. And to my shock, I discovered that my father was actually her brother, and he was only 14 at the time.
14.
So basically my parents were brother and sister. You can imagine, I've grown up in a nice Catholic family.
Okay.
Where sex before marriage is even frowned upon. This was something off the scale, and I really did not know what to do with that information. I felt sick. I felt revulsion. I felt it answered a lot of questions why nobody had wanted me, and that would be why I went into a children's home.
Yeah, I think so.
But most of all, I felt shame.
Okay, why?
Because this was a taboo not just in the Catholic community, right, but in any community.
But it's not your fault.
That would be something that people would be appalled by, as I was. So the lady came back. She took the paperwork off me. She didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I've no idea to this day if they knew what was inside. I'm sure nowadays you would have counselling before such a discovery, but nothing like that. So I left the office and for quite a long time just walked about, trying to process what I had just read and feeling incredibly full of shame. I felt that no one would want to know me. They would look at me with the same revulsion that I'd just looked at what I'd read. And
it's not your fault.
I decided there and then that
I
could never tell anybody. This was something I would have to keep secret and no one could ever know.
Until when?
If they did, they wouldn't want to keep me. I know.
Because she's right now telling millions upon millions of people.
So I carried on walking, and over the next few days,
that have seen this video,
I made a very big decision.
Okay.
That changed the whole course of my life. In blind ignorance, because nobody knew anything in those days, as I say, it was very taboo, so I'd never heard of anybody in that situation. I thought that if I married and had children, there was a very high possibility I could pass on some developmental delay.
That's what I'm worried about.
Physically or mentally. And that wasn't something I could wish upon my own child. And so I decided there and then that I would not have children. I would not follow the path that I thought my life would take, settle down, get married, have children just like my siblings. But indeed, I would have to think that through again. And so my life did not pan out how I thought it would. So as they were all having their children, I decided that the best thing I could do was to be the best auntie ever. I built a very strong relationship with all my nieces and nephews, and they brought me enormous joy and still to this day do. While I was making inquiries at the social services office, I discovered that there was a register. And this register was for parents who were looking for their children or children who were looking for their parents. And you were able to put your name on it and then wait and see if a match came up. It was some months later, but a match did come up, and the office contacted me to see if I still wanted to go ahead and meet my mother, which I did. I wanted to very much find out what had happened, why. Had she been assaulted? Was it consensual? You know, what had happened? What had led to that? And why had she then left me? And so the arrangement was that I was given an address to go to. And again, as always, in secret, I went to that address and knocked on the door. A lady answered it, which wasn't that welcoming. And I hadn't realised until that point quite how everything was burning up inside me with all the questions I'd got. But what most struck me, and people who are not adopted would probably never consider this, was that for the first time in my life, I saw somebody that looked like me and that I looked like. And that's a really big thing if you've never had it all your life. So she showed me into the flat, and there was a gentleman sitting in the corner who she introduced as a friend. But again, this absolute likeness and resemblance struck me about him. So we were all in a room together, and I looked like everybody. So I'm very, very certain to this day that that was my father. In some ways, it has given me some reassurance, because the fact that they were still talking and still obviously at ease in each other's company would suggest there wasn't an assault. But I never got to find out what had happened, because I started firing off questions. She seemed quite distant, and I found that difficult. I thought she would be much warmer to me.
Like specifically if she put her name on like a register to find her kid. I mean, yeah.
And I found that difficult. I thought she would be much warmer to me, that if she had put her name down, surely she wanted to see me as much as I wanted to see her. I hadn't expected to see my dad as well. So I started firing lots of questions and not really waiting for her to answer, which wasn't particularly fair. And it sort of became just a bit of a rant. And she stopped me eventually and said, "Look, you're obviously upset, you're obviously distressed. Why don't we rearrange this? You go away and write down all the things you want to ask me, and then we can come back much calmer, and I can try and answer your questions." I felt a bit embarrassed, really, that it had come to that, but I hadn't realised just how angry I felt inside. And so I thought it was a good idea, actually, because I wasn't really getting anywhere as I was. So I took the phone number she gave me, and we agreed I would phone her in a couple of weeks' time and that we would rearrange the meeting. So off I went with some very mixed feelings, because I felt like I hadn't got any answers. I felt like that was probably my own fault. I felt that for the first time ever, I fitted somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was your fault. I'm going to be completely honest here. I think that the people that were in the room with you, I think it's their fault in general, period. Again, it is nothing involving this scenario is your fault. If they put their name on a register so they can kind of see you specifically, and then they refuse to basically answer anything, you know, that you've basically wanted to know the entirety of your life here, while blaming yourself for something that they did, it's a little bit crazy.
Mainly because of the physical resemblance. So I did what she asked. I went away and I wrote down all my questions about what had happened, why had it happened, why did she not want to keep me, why did they not want to keep me, and why did she just walk away like she did and not even try and find out, until here I was now in my 20s and suddenly she was interested again. So I rang the number to rearrange to go back, and the number was dead. Just didn't connect. This is very old-fashioned, but in those days you went through the operator, and I rang the operator and she said no, that line had been disconnected. So I thought, well, maybe there was something wrong with the phone, I'll go. So I went back to the flat and there was nobody there, no answer. I tried knocking on some neighbours' doors to see if anybody knew where they'd gone, or if they'd left any forwarding address or anything. No, nobody knew them. It was very much come and go type rental of property, and they didn't know who they were, where they'd come from, or where they'd gone to. That totally crushed me, because
you didn't lose anything.
It's bad enough to be rejected once, but to be rejected twice is almost too much to bear. And it poses far more questions, because Why did they come back? Why didn't they wait to answer my questions? What was their motivation for putting their name on the register? And I sort of came to the conclusion that maybe just that they wanted to see that I was okay, that maybe they'd made a good decision in the end, but it felt very unfair. It felt like they had both completely rejected me.
They did.
Here I was again with this secret that I still couldn't tell anyone, because now I didn't know what I could even tell. I locked the whole thing away in my brain in little boxes and decided that I would just have to get on with life. It impacted my social life quite a lot, because I was of the age where everybody around me was settling down, getting married, having children. And because most normal men want to do that, they want to start a family, I didn't feel that I could get into any serious relationship because that would inevitably come up. How could I say I didn't want children when people knew how much I love children? And I couldn't explain why. And so whenever I met somebody and we started to go out, the minute it began to be more serious, I would always just pull away and end the relationship. People didn't know why, I couldn't explain why. And to be honest, after a while, I tried to avoid relationships. It made a very big difference to me in my young adulthood. As I say, I continued to have a great relationship with my nieces and nephews. People used to ask, oh, do you not want to get married? Do you not want children? And I would just bat away, well, I haven't met the right one yet, or something like that. So threw myself into work. I played a lot of sport until I got injured and just carried on life. I worked very hard in social care and addiction and became a business manager for a very successful residential unit. And that pretty much took up my time, along with family and my nieces and nephews, my siblings.
Okay. I think we're good here. I'm going to leave the link in the description, specifically on the video when it's actually posted later today. Guys, it's not her fault. None of this is her fault. I'm not sure why. But I guess, when you're young and you kind of get all this information and you're just like, okay, no, this is super embarrassing. I don't want to tell anyone. But I think most like sane, logical minded people would be like, that's not really your fault. There are going to be some who are going to make fun of you for it, right? But are those people actually the relevant people you need to kind of in your sphere of things? Not really. They don't need to be around you under any circumstances, specifically if they're going to make fun of you for something you basically cannot control and had no control over. Right now, the whole not having a kid thing, that's interesting. Okay. That's very interesting here. That would be my worry. I'm going to be completely honest here, but I have no idea if that's even a thing, guys. What are the chances? Specifically, if she did not come out with any like actual ailment or anything like that, I don't know, guys. Right? It's like a thing that is kind of worrisome to me. That would honestly be like my number one thing, bro. Right? What about you guys? What do you guys think? Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies. And I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with, many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings. And we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry, right? Listen, like and subscribe.